Hello and welcome to Yoga Basics. I'm Patty, I'll be your instructor. Let's start again by taking a comfortable seated posture. You can cross your legs in front if this is comfortable for you. And I prefer that you sit on something. So you want to lift the sit bones up. I've got a couple of blankets here that I'm sitting on. And if you're very flexible, maybe you can sit on something that's the height of your foot turned sideways. If you're not very flexible, you might have to sit on something really, really high. As high up as you want, and you could even sit in a chair if you wanted to. You're trying to get your femur bones parallel to the floor. So whatever it takes, however high you have to lift your pelvis to get your knees and your hips on the same plane. Once you've found a comfortable seated posture, press down with your hips, lift with the crown of your head. This is lengthening through your spine. Your spine starts up here in the back of your skull with the occiput bone, and then the spine ends down here between your hips with the sacrum. And in between the occiput and the sacrum is about 26 bones lined up in 3 major curves. So when we want to lengthen the spine, we're not really straightening it, we're lengthening it along those 3 curves. So you push down with your hips, you'll feel your low belly draw in just a little, lift with the crown of your head. Now find your breath. You'll find it first outside of your nose, you might feel it in your throat, but then you sort of lose the breath. So let's transition into diaphragmatic breathing, what we call belly breathing. Now you're not really breathing with your belly, but because you changed the positioning of the diaphragm, it feels like you're breathing with your belly. So if you'd like, you can take a hand or 2 hands and put them on your low belly, and as you inhale, feel like you're filling the palms of your hands with your breath. And then, as you exhale, draw the belly back to your spine, literally squeezing the breath back out. So the inhale seemingly fills the belly, bringing the breath up the 3 major curves of your back, and then the exhale breath slides down those same curves, drawing the belly back to your spine. Once more, inhale at your low belly, your mid and side and upper chest, and then exhale the breath back down, drawing the belly back to your spine. Excellent. All right, release technique, and I'll invite you now, if you'd like, to bring your hands to your heart. We call this the prayer position. It's really in Sanskrit called the Anjali Mudra, or the mudra for overcoming obstacles. Pressing your palms together at the same time pulling your shoulders apart, you'll feel your heart lift and open. And as you feel this lifting and opening, take a moment and set an intention for yourself. Claim for yourself what it is that you want, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Take just another moment with this intention. And so it is. Inhale big, and then sigh it out. Bringing your hands down to your lap, blinking your eyes open if they were closed. And now joining me today for the rest of the session is Jessie, my wonderful assistant. And we're going to start out today doing a posture called Janu Sirsasana. The posture is called head to knee pose, but we're going to twist it and fold it and most likely not get heads to knees. It's just what it's called. I actually like to call this pose belly to thigh because that's really where we're going with it. So Jessie, bring your legs out, rock to release any tension built up from the cross-legged posture. And then let's go ahead and have your legs come long down the mat. Now I know Jessie, I know he's got some tight hips and shoulders. He likes to work out. So I'm going to have you sit on the blankets. So take 2 blankets and just sit on the edge of them. This is going to lift his pelvis up just a little bit so that it frees up a little bit more room to straighten up with the spine. So from here, both legs are going to come straight down the mat and they're going to be hip width apart. Good. Now you're going to push down with the legs and pull the toes back. Excellent. Then you're going to try to lift your spine up. Now some of you may have to hold on in this posture, and if you feel like you've got to hold on because you're too tight through the hips, go ahead and sit on more blankets, lifting your hips up. From here, let's go ahead and draw the right leg back. And with the right leg drawn back, if this knee is up in the air, which it is for most of us, you can take another blanket and put it underneath that knee. And this gives you something to push into. So this left leg is straight. The toes are straight up and down. In fact, you might even tip the leg in just a little, pushing the inner leg a little bit closer to the mat. From here, Jesse's going to bring his left hand behind him, and his right hand is going to grab hold of the knee on that straight leg. Anything touching the mat, you're going to push down into the mat. You're going to use this leverage to extend up through the spine again. The extension is the inhale, and then on the exhale, we're going to rotate to the left. Now you do have leverage. You've got the leverage of the hand behind you. You've got the leverage of the hand on the knee. This is a lot of leverage, so please keep it friendly. As long as you can breathe in this posture, you're in it correctly. If it's too tight and you can't catch your breath, you need to back out of the posture just a little. But if you can breathe easy and you can think about a lot of different things, maybe you're not in the posture enough. So find where your twist is so that it's enough intensity so that you can feel the twisting around, the muscle stretching around. Again, if you tightens your breath, it's too tight in the posture. So the inhale, you push down with the body, lift up with the spine. Then the exhale, you rotate the spine again around to your left, looking over your left shoulder. Now, what's interesting about this particular posture, Janu Sirsasana twist, is if you push this bent knee or you internally press the bent knee down, that's going to enable you to go up and around to the left just a little bit more. Take another in-breath here. And then as you exhale, release your posture and bring your torso back forward. Keep the leg position. So now we want to open up the back of Jesse's legs. We're going to be getting into a posture called Dolphin, which is a very challenging posture, so it helps if the body's a little more open. So Jesse, inhale your arms up, all the way up. And as you exhale, bring your arms behind you and clasp your wrists. Now, some of you can clasp your wrist. Others of you might be able to clasp your elbow, and still others of you might be able to do this posture, which is a reverse namaste, touching your fingertips to your tailbone, turning the fingertips in, and then snaking your palms together until you're in the prayer position behind your back. Whatever's more accessible for you. And I know Jesse, and the wrists are enough for him. Tuck your chin, your toes on this long straight leg pull back towards your heart, your chin tucks so that your forehead aims at your ankle. Inhale here. And as you exhale, draw your belly to your spine and move your spine forward. And now we've got a tight hamstring on Jesse. That's why this knee is bending. So rather than challenging the hamstring too much, we're going to put a blanket underneath there and let Jesse push his knee into the blanket. And this will keep the hamstrings safe. Now, your hamstrings are big players in the support of your low back. They're not going to stretch easily, nor should they. So you gently work the hamstrings open and you use your breath. So now that you have found that forward motion of the torso, take your inhale. And as you exhale, release your hands from behind you and just bring them long down that leg. Some of you might be used to pulling. If you are going to pull in this posture, don't bounce. Remember, hamstrings are delicate and they're very important for the body, especially in the care of your low back. So you don't want to overstretch them. You want to let the hamstrings open up as easily as possible. So while you're in this posture, your inhale might lift you just a little, and your exhale might fold you a little bit closer to your thigh. Taking another inhale here, and exhale, going as long into this posture as you can. Excellent. While in this posture, before you come out of it, push down with everything that's touching the mat, pushing down with that far knee, down with the straight leg, reaching your heart towards those toes. Take another in-breath. And now as you exhale, release your foot or your leg, place your hands on the mat, and slowly lift your torso back up. And pause here. Good job. Forward folds are slightly tranquilizing. So when you come up, you pause. You always want to pause coming out of a yoga posture anyway so that you can get the soak and the release after the squeeze. But especially when you come up from a folded posture. So pick up this knee Yep, bring your legs out long, rock to release any tension that was built up in them. And now we're going to do the other side. So Jesse's going to draw his left leg back. And we're going to put this blanket underneath that knee again to give him something to press that femur bone into. The right leg is straight, the toes pull back towards your heart, and you want the inner edge of your right leg to sort of tip down towards the mat, bringing those toes straight up and down. This is proper alignment. If this foot wings out like that, we've externally rotated the femur bone and it gets in the way when we try to stretch the hamstrings. So you want that femur bone even in its socket, and you'll know it is when the toes, two middle toes are pointing straight up in the air, in this position anyway. So we're going to twist it first, bringing your right hand behind your back. Your left hand grabs hold of that knee. Again, you're using leverage, so be very careful with the leverage. Keep it friendly and do not go so tight that you can't breathe. Pushing down with anything touching a mat or the blanket, using that downward pressure to lift up as you inhale, and then use the twist to help facilitate the exhale. So you're pulling that right shoulder back at the same time you're internally pressing that left knee down. And you're going to feel this cross-body stretching pattern. Inhale lifts the body, extending the spine up. The more extension we get in the spine, the more the exhale can rotate the spine. So the more you bring the bones of the back gently away from each other, the more range of motion that you've got in them. Taking another inhale here, lifting on the inhale. And then exhale and release your posture, bringing yourself back forward. So we're going to fold over this leg, but if you fold with your arms, what's going to happen, and demonstrate reaching for your foot. This is shoulder extension. This does not get into Jesse's hamstring. You can tell because he's really calm. So lift back up, grab hold of either your wrists, your elbows, or if you'd like to do a reverse namaste, you can. From here, the toes point back to your heart, inner edge of the leg is pressing down, your chin is tucked so that your forehead aims at the foot. Push down with anything touching a mat or the blanket, lift up, inhale. As you exhale, bring your belly to your spine and bring your spine forward. This is why I like to call the pose belly to knee pose, because or belly to thigh. That's what's happening first, is you're bringing your belly towards your thigh. Now he has a little bit more hamstring room on this side. So we're not going to stay as long on this side. The other side, when he tried to fold forward, that knee popped up and we had to support it with a blanket. This side, the knee is fine, which tells me these hamstrings are a little bit longer here. So take your in-breath, and on your exhale, your out-breath, just reach the arms down your legs. And instead of staying for 5 to 7 breaths, we're going to stay for about 3. The inhale might lift you just a little bit in the posture, and the exhale, as you draw your belly to your spine, will fold you just a little bit closer. Once more, allowing yourself to reach, heart towards foot. Take another in-breath, and exhale, release. Hands to the mat, slowly press yourself back up. Great. Pick that knee up, bring the legs out, rock both legs to release. Now we're going to do just a little bit of shoulder work. So in this next posture, when we get into it, there will be no heads on the floor. No heads on the floor. Your head will hover above the floor. And the way you know your head will hover above the floor is through shoulder extension. So you want to take your shoulders and lift them all the way up to your ears, and then slide your shoulders all the way down towards your back waist. So we're not only working the humerus bones, but we're working the scapulas in the back of the body. So use the levatus scapula muscles to lift the shoulders up as high as they'll go, and then use those same muscles to draw the shoulders back down. Again, lift the shoulders as high as they'll go, scapulas all the way up to the ears, and then draw your scapulas back down towards your waist. You want to do this just enough times to gently fatigue the shoulders so that you'll know you've got a good range of motion in them. From here, Jesse, you're going to come on to hands and knees. So from hands and knees, remember, no heads on the floor, no heads on the floor, but the top of your head will aim at the floor. So let's start by coming down to your forearms, clasping your hands together. Whichever way you clasp your hands, change it to the awkward way. Then I like to open my pinkies so that I don't push the fingers down too far into the mat. Your elbows go underneath your shoulders. So you put your elbows in just a little bit closer than you want them and let them roll out so the skin around the bones kind of rolls. Elbows are under shoulders. They're going to try to run away from you. Your elbows are going to try to escape out this way, and then you lose your power because we're really taking the humerus bone and using this bone to stack the body weight on. Now look up and let's take the shoulders for a ride. Lift them up as high as they can towards your ears and then lower them back down. Now put the top of your head towards the floor. So see, his head is not on the floor. I can run my hand all the way through this. From here, tuck your toes, lift your hips up, and drag your scapulas towards your waist. You can put your feet wide in this posture, and you can bend your knees. So even though we opened up Jesse's hamstrings, they're still pretty tight. So feel free to bend the knees or to do a little pedaling, lowering one heel and lowering the other heel. And this gives him an opportunity to take just a little bit more stretching, get a little more opening in the body. So with Dolphin, you're slowly going to walk your feet towards your face. And eventually, with the continued practice of this posture, these hips will end up way over the shoulders so that your back will be almost straight up and down. But in the beginning, it looks like this. Now, this is a challenging posture. At any time you need to come down, please come down. What I'm going to ask Jesse to do is to come into a forearm plank. So walk your feet back. And in a forearm plank, he's going to shift forward and look up. Pull the belly in, protect the low back, and then take your breath, your inhale breath, and on the exhale breath, lift the hips up and back. And at any point that you need to come down, you can tell me that you need to come down. So walk your feet back towards your face. Remember, the head is not on the floor. Look, I can reach my hand all the way underneath. His head is hovering, not going onto the mat. Let the shoulders engage. You can even think about lifting and opening your chest, even though it's the back of the body that's getting the work. Draw yourself more forward so that your shoulders go over your elbows. Walk your feet towards your face, but stay in Dolphin. So walk your feet in. Good. Now the head comes down. That's it. He's shaking and sweating. This is a really challenging posture. Let's do one more forearm plank. Yep, look up, shift forward. Power pose, really good for the triceps. Excellent. Last Dolphin. Walk your feet towards your face. Top of the head aims at the mat, but is not on the mat. As you can see, his head is not on the mat. Now, his elbows are trying to run away. So tuck the elbows a little bit more in and bring walk your feet a little closer to your face. Good job. This is Dolphin. This is very challenging, and Jesse's ready to come down. So come on down and come to your back for me with your knees bent. So knees bent, and Jesse's now on his back. So we're going to do a little releasing here. So let's start with a happy baby. Now, I know Jesse's shoulders are tight, and so we'll give him a blanket for his head. And you'll know that shoulders are tight if your chin's jutting up into the air. So here, now we've made the ears, the shoulders, the hips, and the heels all on relatively the same plane. So from this position, Jesse's going to come into the soon-to-be world-famous happy baby. Bringing the knees into your belly, soles of the feet towards the ceiling, holding on to the outer edge of your feet, you want to try to let your tailbone reach towards the mat. And if the tailbone is lifted up high off the mat like Jesse's is, we can take another blanket. This would be very hard for you to do at home. But you can support the low back that way so that the low back can rest. So maybe if you had a blanket nearby, you could just drag it over and put it underneath your hips. And with the blanket underneath the hips, you can rock side to side. And as you rock side to side, you're gently rocking over your adrenals that sit right on top of your kidneys. All right, inhale here, and exhale, release the baby, bringing your feet to the mat. Good job. So Would you like to try a fish? Let's try a fish. So we're going to try a pose called Matsyasana, fish pose. From your position on your back with your knees bent, have a blanket handy because you might need it for your head. Push into your feet and lift your hips. While your hips are in the air, put your hands underneath your hips and sit down on the back of your hands, and then straighten your legs and lift up, all the way up, your chest up. But lift your torso up so that you're in an upright position. From up here, you'll take the elbows and tuck them behind you. Good. Then from there, you'll let your head come back. With your head coming back, let the top of your head rest on something. Top of the head. You're trying to lift here, where the thymus is. This is a very important part of the body. The thymus is a gland that takes bone marrow, brings it into this area, and matures that bone marrow into fighting cells, killer cells. T cells is one of the most famous ones. And these cells are sent out, once they're mature, they're sent out into the body where they combat abnormal cells. And it's cell-to-cell combat, so the strongest cell wins. So here's the nursery, and you want to open up this area for a free flow of fluid and energy. Inhale here, and then exhale, release the pose. Bending your knees, making it friendly in the back. And release your hands. Great. We're going to set Jesse up for Savasana now. So sometimes we'll do a flat Savasana, but sometimes we'll support it. So let's support it this time. We'll give him a blanket for his head to compensate for the tight shoulders since he likes to work out. And we're going to give him a blanket for the back of his knees. We're actually going to give him two. And this blanket here, you let your legs go long over that blanket. And what it does is it kind of tips the pelvis so that you're not in this lordosis position on the mat. You're able to let that pelvis tip just enough that your low back can then rest on the mat. So coming in to what is the most important pose in yoga, your Savasana. Savasana in Sanskrit translates as corpse pose. It's got a creepy name, but the ancients realized that in the stillness of this posture, the body releases or dies to what was and engages or lives to what will be. So we release old patterns, old cellular patterns, and we learn new cellular patterns. The body makes these new connections. And this happens in the stillness of this posture. So you're trying to be as still as you can be without actually holding yourself still. In the stillness, your body is going to integrate and internalize the lessons and the gifts and the benefits of your practice. So what you do in this posture is you just melt. You melt into the shape of this pose. Let your toes splay open. Let your knees soften. Allow your belly to soften so that your navel drops towards your spine as you exhale. Release your chest. Imagine that your heart's lifting as your shoulders are lowering, melting your shoulders down your arms and pretending that your palms are like puddles. Swallow, releasing through your throat, letting the skin on your cheeks go slack. Allow your tongue to rest gently in the back of your mouth, continuing to release any conversation, and instead tune yourself into observation as you allow your tongue to spread side to side. Soften your face. Bring your gaze inward. Be brave and release the grip of your brain, letting your brain rest gently in the back of your skull. Let your skull seemingly widen and spread on the mat or the blanket. Find your front body, and in its entirety, let it melt into your back body. Allow your back body to melt into the mat, the floor, the ground. In the final few moments of this pose, just observe your breath as it moves through your body. Observe your body as you continue to let go of long-held layers of tension. And observe your mind. Notice what thoughts you let go of And notice yourself escorting your mind back to your breath and back to your body. One technique might be to see if you can hear a sound that's the farthest away from you, and then try to hear a sound that's the absolute closest to you. And allow yourself to rest within those vibrations, tuning in to the vibrations of you. All right, so now we're going to bring him out of Savasana by Jesse, deepen your breathing, and you at home, deepen your breathing if you're in Savasana. Wiggle fingers and toes. Reach your arms up long and stretch your fingers away from your feet. Make space. And release. Draw your knees into your belly. Roll to your right side or left side and make a pillow for your head with your arm. Take this moment and thank yourself for your practice. Inhale here. And then exhale and slowly press yourself up. Come into any seated, comfortable posture that you'd like. I'll invite you to bring your hands back to your heart. Lift your heart, and this time bow your head. Namaste.